Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Today I'm here with Philip Howell-Williams. Hi Philip, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thank you.
So Philip, where are you from and how did you find yourself in Hong Kong?
Oh, long story. Well, originally from the UK. I was working for a couple of banks there. I was working first of all for Barclays Bank and then for RBS. And when the financial crisis happened, my career path kind of drew to a halt and I was looking at other options. And I ended up finding a job with the company I work for now, Infinity, and relocated to Bangkok.
Oh, right. So you were with Infinity in Bangkok first?
Yes. I've been with the company for 9 and a bit years now.
Oh, okay. And then how did you end up in Hong Kong?
I was travelling back and forth to other locations, and the company asked me if I'd like to relocate to Hong Kong in the start of 2014, and it seemed like a great opportunity. It's somewhere I'd always wanted to live, so I jumped at it.
And so what do you do at Infinity?
I'm a financial planner, so predominantly work with expats and look at their overall life finances, whether it be insurance, savings, investments, property, all different aspects of it, and help them to plan for the future.
Oh, we might have to have an appointment later. He can help me out.
Always happy.
So I believe from my research that when you were doing your financial planning, you wanted to have a focus on the LGBTQ plus community. Is that correct?
Yeah, that really started in Bangkok, where I was trying to work with the LGBT community and sort of build out a niche for myself. But the community in Bangkok is very different to here. And when I relocated, I really took that as an opportunity to build up kind of my own business within the business and work with the community here.
And what was the uptake like? Was there a lot of interest from members of that community to work with you?
There is interest because when you're talking about your finances, it's a very personal matter. You're talking about things which you wouldn't really discuss with friends, family, or anyone else. And having somebody who understands the needs of the LGBT community is important, and also somebody who's not going to judge them in any way or to stereotypes or anything like that. So it's really important to have somebody who you know is going to be on your side from the outset.
And I guess you would also find that there's not many people in that niche market here in Hong Kong, is there, offering this kind of service?
Not really. There are people which have come and gone, but I'm sort of one of the longer players here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's gone well.
What inspired you to start doing charity work in the LGBTQ space in Hong Kong?
When I first arrived, I didn't really know that many people at all. And I was trying to really find contacts, both for friendship and also for work as well. And I went along to a few events which were happening and were talking to people. And I actually put together a sort of mini think tank where I invited along some of the leaders from the community and asked them what they thought I should be doing. Because I wanted to make sure that people didn't think I was just here to sort of grab the money and run off, but I was actually offering a good quality long-term service. And many people said, well, why don't you get involved in some of the initiatives? So I joined up with the charity Pink Alliance and started off with them doing fundraising for the various initiatives which they were running.
When you joined Pink Alliance, what sort of work were they doing here in Hong Kong at that point?
Pink Alliance has been around for 9-10 years. Actually longer, probably about 12 years. And it's really a sort of communication group between different LGBT groups. They do a lot of advocacy work and they have several major initiatives that run throughout the year, one of which is IDHOT, which is International Day Against Homophobia, Pink Season. We were running Pink Dot at that time. So there's lots of different work which is continuously going on.
And your focus is particularly pink season, is that right?
Yes. Well, I've got two main initiatives which I work on. I run Fruits and Suits, or FINS, which is the monthly networking group. And I've been involved in Pink Season now for 5 years and director of it for 2.
Oh,
no, 3 years.
How cool. That's awesome. So I went to one of the Fruits and Suits events when the Rainbow Families Forum was going on here in Hong Kong. I was podcasting at that. And we went along to the event, and is it the Harmonics sang, is it?
Yes.
So that was awesome. And it was just such a lovely vibe, and everyone was so friendly. What initiated your ideas for the Fruits and Suits?
Well, Fruits and Suits itself has been running for quite a long time now, nearly 14 years.
Oh, right.
And when it started, it was really the kind of only group of its kind, and a lot of people used to attend. But then over the years, other groups have come along, been and gone, and the attendance was sort of dwindling quite a lot. The person who was running it before me left Hong Kong, moved to Manila with his partner, and I put my hand up and said, well, I'd be interested in taking this on. And I really took a few ideas which I'd had previously and tried to implement those. So I made a few changes right from the start, which I took over. I try and keep it in easy locations to get to. They're normally around Central, and I make it free for everybody to attend. I normally keep it in the same location for about 3 months so that people have got a bit of consistency, but then move it along, because otherwise people then get bored. Oh,
that's a great idea. And is it just really a social networking for LGBTQ plus members?
It really is open for anybody who wants to come along. Predominantly it's a sort of business/social networking group, but we've done all sorts of things in the past. We've had parties, we've had wine tasting, we've had guest speakers, we've had panel discussions, we've done fundraising. So it's had a lot of different things in there, and each month we try and do something a little bit different.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me a bit more about what's going to be happening with Pink Season this year.
Well, the dates are set. It's going to be kicking off on the 28th of September, and it's going to be running through for a full 5 weeks until the 3rd of November. Over the last few years, we have really tried to build upon previous successes, and when we sat down at the end of last season, the end of last year, we really looked at what we thought worked, what we thought added value, and that kind of brought forward the whole concept that this season we wanted everything to support the community and give back to the community. So we've got a huge range of events. There's something in there for everyone. We've got art, theatre, sport, education, parties, family events. So it's really a chance for everyone to get involved in something that they enjoy.
Oh, that's amazing. And how long's Pink Season been running for?
It's its 9th year. It was originally started as an initiative by Pink Alliance, and it was started really for 2 reasons. The first one was that there was no Pride March that year, and Pink Alliance thought that was quite a shame, so they wanted to do something to replace it. They were also talking to the Hong Kong Tourism Board and wanted Hong Kong to be promoted as a safe destination for LGBT travellers. And the Tourism Board said, well, put together some events and we will help promote them. When it was first started, it was really a platform for other events that were happening to be included, and it started off as really quite a small sort of season of events, but over the years, when different people have run it, they've put their own footprint onto it, added their own ideas, and it's grown year by year.
What aspect of your personality and what stamp have you put on it in the last 3 years, would you say?
When I took over, well, previously before I took over, I was doing the fundraising for it. And at the same time, I was doing fundraising for Pink Dot. Pink Dot is a standalone initiative which is very much liked by the corporates. It really fits very well with all of their diversity and inclusion ideas. Doing the fundraising for Pink Dot was very straightforward and easy. But when I was talking about Pink Season, it was much, much harder. There were events in there which were not corporate friendly. It was generally considered to be a party for 4 or 5 weeks. And lots of the people which I was talking to were saying, well, we'd like to be able to support it, but we just can't at this time. So when I took over the running of it, I very clearly made a decision in my own mind that I needed to take it in a direction which would make it marketable to the corporates. So we started adding a lot more education. We started adding a lot more family-orientated events. We started adding events which we thought would really help the community and would get the support of banks and law firms.
And did that work? Like, have you been able to get more sponsorship over the last 3 years based on that plan?
Oh, definitely. The first year which I was running it, we got, I think it was 20,000 Hong Kong dollars of sponsorship. The next year we got 250. This year we're on track for about 350,000.
That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most amazing things about Hong Kong is that big corporations will get behind community events that make a difference to people, won't they?
Oh, completely. And it's not just Hong Kong, it's a global trend. You know, all of the major corporations are really focusing upon diversity and inclusion. Many of them are setting up their own internal pride networks or support networks. There's a lot of focus, not just internally in their companies, but trying to spread it to their business partners and other people, that they're really there to support everyone, regardless of your background or sexual orientation or whatever that might be.
And that's so important. Why do you think it's important that we have inclusion and diversity in our communities, in the workplace and in the community? Why is it important?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, you look at statistics about depression and suicide within the LGBT community, and it's quite disturbing. One of the problems that many people face here in the local community in Hong Kong is that they don't believe that they can really truly be themselves. So they will be hiding their true sexuality or personality, or whatever you want to call it, at home. They'll be hiding it at work. The only time which they can really be themselves is when they go out in a crowd with their friends, maybe on a Friday or Saturday night. But it goes beyond that as well. It goes about education, and then there's looking at your sexual health. So there's many different aspects of it.
And it's really role modelling for the younger generation. It's providing a community where people feel accepted and nurtured and loved. And it's so important for all of us to feel like we belong.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think historically, members of the LGBTQ community have been marginalised. They've been discriminated against, and they haven't been visible in media and television and film. And that's beginning to really shift and change over the last, I'd say, decade. Would you agree?
Oh, completely. I mean, I remember when I came out, there was a TV show on in the UK called Queer as Folk. And it was the most complained about TV program in history, from what I understand.
I know, because it was so raw and it was so real.
It did go for shock value.
Yes, I remember watching it, and it was just like, wow. But that's what we need, because it is real.
But you look at today's television, and having programs like that is commonplace.
Yes, it's not as shocking now, is it?
And the way that people react them is so completely different to the way it was.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at Hong Kong, yes, there's lots of problems with, there's no anti-discrimination legislation for the LGBT community. Marriage equality is still a problem. So there's ongoing battles which, you know, will continue, and it's a long-term fight, really, to get true equality here.
And is that part of the role of Pink Season, by making the community more visible? Are you hoping to initiate some of the changes in the political arena, or are you just really focusing on the community and bringing everybody together and education and celebration?
We're not directly political, but we have seminars which talk about very political topics, such as marriage equality. One of the educational seminars we're doing this year is looking at the recent QT case, which has been won. Because if you look at the legal jargon, most people don't really understand what it actually means. If you read the newspapers, you've probably got a dumbed down version which might or might not be correct. But really, what does it mean in real life? If you've got a same-sex couple, which one half of them is from Hong Kong, one half of them is from the UK, for example, can you still get a spousal visa? And also, there's now going to be a disconnect between what local people can have legally and what expats can have legally. So,
is there? Can you explain that to me in more detail?
Well, I mean, if you were a same-sex couple from Australia or the US or the UK, and you moved here, you can now get a spousal visa, and you could then get the legal rights to, you know, healthcare and whatever it is.
Is that because you're already married in your own country?
Yes.
Right.
So essentially it's recognised by de facto now. But you still have to apply, and it's still an interesting time to see how easy that process is. But in theory, yes, you can apply for the same-sex visas now.
But then for local couples, first of all, they can't get married in Hong Kong, can they? If they can get married in, say, Vietnam or Australia or the US, they still won't be recognised as married in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
And then they don't have the same rights.
Yeah. I mean, your marriage is not recognised. So when you look at the tax benefits, when you look at
Old age care,
all that sort of thing,
stuff.
you know, rights of loved ones that are in hospital, you know, all those different things which really matter are non-applicable.
So could you, for the listeners, explain that case in a little more detail?
The QT case. It was a lesbian couple which came from the UK. And when they arrived, one partner had got a job in a firm where at the same time there was a heterosexual couple starting. The heterosexual couple, the partner got a visa, a dependent visa, and of course the lesbian couple were denied. And they decided to take the government to court, and they teamed up with an incredible lawyer called Michael Vidler, who's won many other cases before and is an incredible inspiration as far as human rights go. And he took the case on. It took a long time. It was lost at several times, but at the Court of Final Appeal, it was won.
Oh my gosh. So does that really then set a precedent for other couples, do you feel, in Hong Kong? And could we see a sea change quite quickly?
We would like to think so.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But it is Hong Kong and things move quite slowly here. You look at the general legislation across the board, it really goes back to when it was colonial rule from the UK. And a lot of that hasn't changed over the years. You look at advancements in Australia and in the UK itself. They've moved so much quicker than here.
It's interesting. It's a real dichotomy in a way, isn't it? Because we have the government on board supporting the Gay Games, which are going to be here in 2022, hosted by Hong Kong. We've got them supporting initiatives like Pink Dot, Pink Season and Pink Alliance, or the tourism board at least are supporting that. So on the one hand, we see this kind of support and the backing, but then on the other hand, that we're not seeing the political change or the change for, well, we're just not seeing equality.
Yeah, you're not.
No, and that's a real shame, isn't it?
And it's not just for the LGBT community. It's really looking at human rights. And there's a lot of fear of China. They obviously look at what happened with the umbrella protests a few years ago. There's a lot of unease to make change because obviously the full handover is only 20 odd years down the line. And I think that holds back a lot. But also a lot of the politicians who are up high, they are very conservative in their views.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of the undertone of Hong Kong, isn't it? Or certainly of Chinese culture.
Yeah, and I think it also harks back a lot to colonial era as well. I mean, when Britain ran Hong Kong, there was dreadful segregation of the local community and the expat community. The local community had no support as far as education went. And the result was that a lot of very conservative Christian missionary groups moved in and took over that space. And those people were educated to those values are now the people which are in power.
Right. There you go. That summarises it very succinctly. Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you feel that Pink Season will enhance the understanding of diversity in Hong Kong? And what will it do for Asia as well?
A large part of what we're doing is about education, and we cover various topics. We try to have a lot of fun along the way, and we try to have events which will include people so they can come along and make new friends, experience new things. We try to make everything free. But with the events which we do, we try to add background support to them. So, for example, we team up with many other charities. We team up with AIDS Concern and put together a health event. And it's touching upon quite dark but also very important subjects such as domestic violence, drug abuse, depression, and the stigma of HIV testing. But because we're working with charities that directly deal with that, if people say, well, I need help, we can then refer them back to those people. There's also another charity called Planet Ally, where we really explore what it means to support the LGBT community, predominantly in the workplace. In previous years, we've done seminars looking at coming out, which is a very difficult process for most people.
And it can be an ongoing process, isn't it? You often have to come out all the time, whereas I don't have to tell anybody I'm straight in my whole life. It's not fair.
Yeah. It's, some people never come out.
Yes.
And it's really, we're exploring coming out at home, coming out at work, and coming out in education. And it is a very difficult subject for many people to approach. One of the really nice things which we noticed about the seminar when we did that last year was that the first one was that it was predominantly attended by local people, but also it was attended by a lot of local people's friends that were trying to understand themselves what people they knew might be going through. So, if that helps them to help their friends, then it's good work and we're pleased.
And that's where some of the great work that Planet Ally is doing, because they're promoting allyship. So you don't have to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer to be an ally and to support people in the community. And that's what's so important. And it's about inclusivity. It's about understanding and sharing and supporting and all of those things. And I think that's the message that really needs to get out to the wider community, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, some people have the misconception that being an ally means that you're going to be going on pride marches and you have to almost become gay yourself. But it's not. It can be everything from the smallest details, looking at the way that you talk to your colleagues at work. You don't go up to them and say, oh, have you got a girlfriend? Because that's an assumption that they're straight.
Yes.
If they're a man. And then it's talking about, well, what did you do at the weekend? These questions, without thinking about it, can be intrusive. And for somebody who's not comfortable, it can be really disarming for them.
And same as with gender stereotyping as well. We should try to avoid gender stereotypes as much as possible, because people can fit anywhere on that gender spectrum, and we can't make assumptions about masculinity or femininity or even about people's gender orientation based on the way they look.
Precisely. And that's really what allyship is all about. And Planet Ally does great work covering many different aspects of it. We're working with them twice this year. And we've got an event called How to Be an Ally, which we did last year and was a great success.
What does that involve?
That involved, we had representatives from people representing the different letters, LGBT, IQ. And we had breakout groups, so you could go and talk to individuals, listen to their stories, listen to their advice about how people can be more supportive. And then after sort of 10, 15 minutes, you'd rotate and you'd move to the next group. But it gave you a chance to cover all of the different aspects of it.
And off the top of your head, can you think of any bits of advice that were really gold when you were in this forum? And, how can people offer support?
A lot of it's about just daily language and not making assumptions and quite often people are very curious. I often find it quite amusing that when I tell people that I'm gay, or if they ask and I tell them, they quite often have sort of 3 questions. One is, when did you find out you were gay?
Yeah, when did I find out I was straight?
Exactly.
Exactly. There's a great video on YouTube, actually, with someone going around and saying, when did you realise you were straight?
I've just seen that.
And people saying, brilliant. But what do you mean? I just am. And, I explain it to my students at school is, I'm Australian. It's just the same.
Yeah.
That's the way I was born, and same with sexuality.
And one of the other brilliant questions is, oh, so you top or bottom then?
I can't believe people ask that.
They may not ask it that directly, but it would be the same as me going up to a straight couple, straight person at work and saying, so what's your favourite sexual position then? It's just something you wouldn't do. It's
intrusive, isn't it?
But, I take it on the chin and I think sometimes it's quite funny. But for many people, it's not.
Do you educate people along the way and say, actually, that's a bit of an intrusive question, or do you just
yes,
make fun of
it very much depends upon what the situation is. If there's no malice there, then I'm not normally not too unhappy about answering people's questions.
Yeah.
But again, it depends upon how those questions are phrased, in what context. And I will educate people, say, that isn't an appropriate thing you should be saying.
The thing that I've noticed, I'm very aware and I'm trying to be very careful and respectful, but I made an error recently with a lesbian couple, and I was chatting to them and they have children, and I asked them how they had their children. And they were like, actually, that's a really inappropriate question. And I was like, oh, crap. I thought I was on a podcast. I thought I was interviewing you. But I hadn't considered that you don't ask a straight couple how you managed to have your children. Are they adopted?
Exactly.
Are they IVF? Whatever.
Yeah.
It was still an education for me, even though I pride myself on being really, really sort of respectful, and I teach this stuff in school.
Everybody has their own personal boundaries, but
yes,
it's
they do.
Learning to try and not blatantly jump across them before you've even started to get to know them.
Yeah, and these women were really lovely about it. They were very warm, and they didn't get offended or upset, but they just pointed out to me that it wasn't a question I should be asking, and it was like, oh, God, they're right. Moving back to the festival, what are some of the highlights of Pink Season Festival this year? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, there's many different things which we've got lined up. One of the things, we've started quite a few things this year. We've got a series of drag queen workshops, which is something...
Oh, that's so cool.
It's something that's going to be a little bit of fun, but also, again, educational. So it's going to be done in 3 stages. The first stage is going to be really exploring what current drag queens in Hong Kong do, how they started their sort of part-time career or sideline career as being a drag queen. We'll be then looking at what kind of drag queen participants want to become. Are they going to be a funny one? Are they going to be a glamorous one? Are they going to be a bitchy one? And the second stage is going to be talking about movement, so doing the walk, doing the dancing. The third stage is going to be looking at makeup and the look. And then at the end of Pink Season itself, we've got a grand finale for those who wish to participate, where the winning queen or king will win some return flights to London from British Airways.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
we've got-
amazing. So you'll actually have like a RuPaul's Drag
Exactly.
Race.
Very condensed.
Condensed
but, yeah.
RuPaul's Drag
But
Race
that's
in
the
Hong Kong.
idea.
So you'll set some like challenges or tasks, or it'll be like a parade or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a stage at the finale, which is it's
cool.
a full day, full afternoon family event. So we're thinking that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. That will be loads of fun. Why do you think it's important for people in the community to have an understanding about drag queens and what they do?
A lot of people that do drag are, again, using it as a different persona so they can sort of express themselves in ways which they might not feel they can do themselves. Obviously, there's a lot of entertainment side of it. There's different aspects to it, and we're not just looking at it as being a fun event. Really, the start of it is something to explore the history of it and why people do it, and also the importance of it as well.
And people can't make assumptions about the sexuality or gender of drag queens either, can they?
Exactly.
They fit under any part of the umbrella, don't they?
I mean, one of the lovely things which I've experienced so far this year is we've had several women which have approached me saying, well, can I take part? And I'm like, well, of course you can. We'll be absolutely delighted. You can either become a drag king or you can become a drag queen, whichever you choose. So we're really hoping that we're going to have a diverse mix of people that are taking part.
And that's brilliant. And I think that's something we can point out to the listeners is this whole Pink Season event is going to be open to everybody, no matter what your gender, sexuality, race, religion, ability, everything, yeah?
Completely.
Yeah, and I think that's the underlying message of the whole thing. So, of course, anybody can join in.
Yeah.
What are some other events that you're looking forward to?
Last year we had a series of art weekends which are curated by Plug Magazine. Plug Magazine is a really wonderful arty, cultural magazine which has been around for several years. This year we condensed them into a full weekend. It's going to be held on the 6th and 7th of October over at Hive Springs in Wong Chuk Hang. And it's going to consist of different elements. So we're going to have workshops. We're going to have an arts and crafts market. We're going to have gallery exhibitions, and we're going to have live entertainment as well.
Wow, that's huge.
One of the nice parts about this is that we're really trying to support minority groups within the LGBT community. And this year, this is going to be focusing upon migrant workers and domestic helpers. So there's a choir here called the Unsung Heroes.
Yes, that's episode 10, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go back and listen to Jane talk about the Unsung Heroes. Yeah, they're awesome, aren't they?
They're so wonderful.
They just sang at the AIDS Gala last week, didn't they?
I was there, and they're really moving. It's
yeah.
incredible talents, and it's really, really inspirational. So they're going to be performing on Sunday, and any proceeds which are raised from the Arts and Crafts Fair will go to directly support domestic helpers and migrants workers in the community.
Oh, that's so fantastic. And is there anything else that you would like to highlight of the events? Because I understand there's so many efforts running over 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things which we're trying which are new. This year we've formulated a career day. There's a group called the Queer Straight Alliance, and they are the university LGBT networks, and they have a mentorship program which they put together. And they also have a recruitment fair, which runs at the beginning of October. We're really looking at the next stage. We're looking at postgraduates. So we're creating a day which is going to help people learn some skills. So we'll be looking at different aspects of their career, whether it be creating their online presence via media such as LinkedIn, We'll be looking at other aspects such as how to present yourself at an interview, looking at millennials in the workplace, looking at being able to offer one-to-one advice during the day with recruitment companies so that people can get information about how to take their career in the right direction.
Wow.
So again, it's got a lot of different groups and companies involved in it.
That's brilliant. That's so fantastic. Do you think that members of the LGBT community have difficulty getting employment in Hong Kong? Is there any sort of discrimination, do you feel?
Well, there's no anti-discrimination law, so you can still legally be fired for being gay.
No.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Does it happen?
Yeah, it does. I know.
That makes me want to cry.
Unfortunately,
What?
I know a few people which have lost their jobs because they're coming out. So people are quite often terrified of doing it. And that brings you back to the whole process of coming out. The reason that people do hide their sexuality, because you can literally lose your livelihood over it.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew there were no anti-discrimination laws, but I thought there was a kind of a don't ask, don't tell sort of policy, but not people actually losing their jobs. I didn't realise that. That's terrible.
I'm sure if you looked at the major international companies, then that would not be the case. But in a local company, yes, you could potentially lose your position over your sexuality.
So then how do you advise people about coming out here in Hong Kong? Do you get them to look at what's going on in their whole life, look at the big picture and then see whether it's actually safe to do so?
I think a lot of it is about giving people confidence. Again, that comes down to education and support. And everyone has their own story. Everyone has got their own background. And for some people, it might not be right. I mean, I hate saying that, but
it's sad, isn't it? It shouldn't be that way.
People get disowned by their families, and they need to think about their own position and how this difficult process can be accomplished. And I know quite a lot of local people which are still going through the process. Their immediate family, such as parents, might know, but their cousins and all the rest of it and work colleagues don't know. It's all hidden. They may suspect, but it's not confirmed. And it's not spoken about.
Yes. And do you know why it's not spoken about in Chinese culture?
I think that it's like many things. It's about saving face. It's about things that are in the family should be kept in the family. There might be suspicions, but let's not talk about it because we don't really want to know the answers.
Right. Yes. That's the impression that I get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad. And hopefully things like the Gay Games and Pink Season and all of these events and all Planet Ally and all the work that everybody's doing in Hong Kong, hopefully it will start to educate and change generations.
Yes. And you can see the change happening already.
Can you? Can you give me an example?
If you look at there was a survey done by the Hong Kong University about should same-sex marriage be allowed in Hong Kong. And it's done around every 3 or 4 years. And a few years ago when it was done, I think it was about 37% people agreed. And this year, the new survey was done and it's gone up to about 57. But it's very generational as well. You can see when surveys are done. Again, a couple of years ago, there was a survey done by the Equal Opportunities Commission, which covered a wide range of subjects. But you could really see from the people that were asked, the generational age, the opinions sort of varied completely.
And as the generations get older, the more conservative they are.
Yeah, and with social media, with everything that's in the news nowadays, it's really the younger generations are being much more educated just on a daily basis.
Yes.
So it's not so much of a concern to them or surprise to them.
Yes, and my understanding is that there's sex education programs and education about gender and sexuality and equality in most international schools in Hong Kong, but I believe that's an area that it's lacking in local schools.
A lot of education in local schools and systems is very lax. I mean, the way bullying is dealt with is, in my opinion, quite absurd. The solutions such as giving you a bookmark saying cheer up, or advice such as splash cold water on your face if you're being bullied.
Oh, really?
When you really should be addressing what's happening and why the bully's doing it and addressing it that way. But certainly sexual education is very lacking in the local community, and you can see the direct results of that with HIV infection going up.
Oh, is it? In Hong Kong?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, that's sad to hear as well. Do you think that we'll see a change with that in schools in the next decade or two?
Again, you think it's something which we're hoping to, but again, the government doesn't seem to really listen to what advice is being given to them when they reach out to international groups like the European Union Council generally the advice they get is ignored.
Oh, that's a shame. It's almost like we have to wait for the next generation of leaders to come through.
Unfortunately, so.
Yeah, that's a real shame. Can you share a personal anecdote of a positive impact that you've seen from Pink Season?
I think one of my first programs which we did, which I was kind of really proud of, was in 2016. And it was the first educational seminar, and it was about the process of surrogacy and adoption here. It was called How to Start a Rainbow Family. And the people turned up, and the feedback that we got, and looking at people that were considering going down that route of either adopting or going through the IVF route, knowing that we were adding some value to their lives and helping in some way was a real boost for us, all of us, I think. And building upon that work over the years has been a delight, and we're all very proud of what we've accomplished. We were very proud earlier this year to win the Community Business Community Impact Award in conjunction with G.TV. Oh, thank you.
That's amazing. What does that mean for you and your team?
Well, it's just wonderful recognition, because it's a lot of work putting this together. Everyone is doing it on a volunteer basis. It takes a lot of time, a lot of emotion. And to have that recognised by the community was a real boost.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You should be really proud of all the work that you're doing. It's incredible and so vital. It's so important.
Thank you.
What does the hashtag hold tight mean to you?
Well, that's actually come from ANZ. ANZ Bank last year were our primary sponsor and are this year as well. And in Australia, when they were campaigning for same-sex marriage, ANZ put together a campaign called hashtag hold tight. And that was really to try and reduce the stigma of same-sex couples being able to hold hands in the street. And when we were working with ANZ, they said, well, we've got this campaign running. Would you be happy to include it in Pink Season? We said, well, we'd be absolutely delighted to. So it was included.
Oh, great. And do you think there is a stigma for gay people to hold hands in Hong Kong?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even when I see same-sex couples walking down the street holding hands, I notice it because it's not the norm. Unusual. But I always think, good on you. You should be able to hold hands if you love someone and you're same-sex couple. Of course you would. You wouldn't think twice about it. And same-sex couples should be able to do the same. But it is something which is a rarity.
Yeah, I know. That's sad. See, I live in a bit of a bubble. I didn't realise that was a problem here. But I picked up on something you said very early on about Hong Kong being a safe place for travellers. Because there are many places in the world where gay couples can't travel, or trans people can't travel because of the discrimination and the violence and the danger. I'm shocked to know that there's something like, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 72 or 74 countries in the world where it's illegal to be gay?
Yeah, and there's a disturbing amount, I think something like 16, where you can still be executed.
I know. Isn't that just mind-bogglingly unreal?
It's terrifying still. And while so many countries are advancing in the right way, there are others which are going the opposite way. And I think Russia would be a clear example of that. If you look at the World Cup recently, people that were travelling had death threats before they even arrived. People were attacked in the streets. It was really quite nasty. One of the events which we're doing this year is a 2-day seminar called Miles of Love. And that's, again, in conjunction with Planet Ally. And it's looking at the disconnect between the travel industry and human rights. Because you can go on a lovely holiday to somewhere like Bali. You can stay in a beautiful hotel, same-sex couple in the same room, and of course, the staff are going to treat you very well, but half a mile down the road, you've got maybe a lesbian couple which are getting 20 lashes just for being in love. And the travel industry doesn't educate people about it, and it doesn't really do a huge amount to support the communities which it's getting their money from. So it's really going to be sort of going head on and exploring that disconnect and how things can be improved.
So this Miles of Love program, that's really mapping safe tourist areas, dangerous tourist spots, and letting the LGBT community be more aware of what's really going on at a grassroots level in different countries. Is that right? Yeah,
it's got an element of that to it. It's also looking at big companies like Airbnb. What are they doing to directly support people on the ground in the places which they're running? Looking at airlines, for example, Virgin in the UK just recently announced that they would refuse to deport people from the UK, but other airlines are. And it's looking at different aspects of that, but predominantly focused upon the Asia-Pacific region.
Gosh, there's so much going on that you guys are doing. It's so amazing. Good for you. In an ideal world, what would you like to see happen in the future for the global LGBT community?
Oh, God, in your wildest dreams, that there just wouldn't be a problem. It would just be everybody would get treated fairly and the same as anybody else. The fact that you have to do this work is kind of disappointing in itself, because you shouldn't have to. As a straight couple, you wouldn't have to do this work and fight for your own rights. But then again, you look at things like the hashtag #MeToo movement. There's work which needs to be done for everybody.
Yes, there is. There's so much work that needs to be done, whether it be for refugees or the LGBT community or for sexual harassment, or, there's so much going on in the world that needs to be addressed.
And I think it's something a battle which will never be fully won, personally. But, the work which we do, we aim to help as many people as we can and try and break down some of those barriers. And it's lovely to see when we've achieved that, when people have enjoyed the events, people that might not have been along to any LGBT events before and have misconceptions or preconceptions about what gay people are like. And then afterwards they realise that actually they're not completely different. They're actually exactly the same. It's just that they happen to love somebody of the same gender.
That's right. That summarises it beautifully. So have you personally faced any discrimination in Hong Kong? And also, have you come across any sort of naysayers or negativity towards Pink Season?
Not in Hong Kong, no. When I was living in the UK, working for both Barclays and RBS, there were the internal pride networks, which, to be honest, I didn't really get involved in because I didn't really face any problems. Everyone knew I was gay, nobody batted an eyelid. But when I moved over to Bangkok, I was actually spent a very short amount of time with a different company, and I found that the attitude was very masculine, very sexist, quite homophobic, and I was really quite taken aback and shocked.
Because you weren't used to it, because you come from somewhere so accepting.
Yeah, I was just I felt very uncomfortable. And nobody had the guts to ask me about my sexuality. People were guessing, and I knew that they were whispering about me behind my back. And it made me feel just horrible, and I hated it. And it was that really kind of burst the bubble for me, because I'd always kind of been in this safe environment during my career. And it was really that which kind of spurred me on, I think, that experience, to do a lot of the work which I do here.
Oh, that's interesting. So that sort of pushed you into activism because you suddenly were on that back foot, being treated really terribly, and you hated the feeling.
Well, I wasn't being treated really terribly. It was the feeling
of not being accepted,
of not being accepted,
right.
Of being judged, of just an environment which I wasn't happy in, and it got to me very quickly and made me quite unhappy very quickly.
So that's really interesting that you felt like that when it was really just an undertone, subtle undertone. So we can imagine then somebody who's being directly discriminated and really harassed or bullied or mistreated because of their gender or sexuality, just how devastating that must be. Oh,
yes, completely.
Yeah.
Because work takes up, so much of your life. You spend more time with your colleagues than you probably do your friends or family. And if you are in a horrible environment, it can really destroy you. And that then leads to horrific things such as the suicide rates which you see in the country.
Yeah, and just mental health issues as well.
Exactly.
It can really trigger them. And that's another area that we need to have more conversations about, and people need to be able to find support.
Precisely. And again, it comes back to the work which we do. If we're able to offer any kind of assistance or help through the career day, through the coming out, through health, then we feel we've done something that's worthwhile.
So what would you say to a young teenage person who's struggling with their gender or sexuality and doesn't really have anywhere to turn for support?
There is support. It's people just are scared to go and find it. I mean, I remember when I was coming out, it took me a while, but the thought of going into a gay bar was terrifying for me, because I thought, people were going to see me from the street of going in. So, I'd sort of wait around the corner until I could
put on a disguise.
Yeah, wait for ages until it was completely clear and then run in.
Yeah.
And for people walking into help centres here, such as the Transgender Resource Centre, that can be a terrifying experience, just going in and then sort of saying, well, blah, here's what's going on with me, and telling you these intimate things about yourself. It can be terrifying. So it's really trying to build up that empowerment, and also trying to get other people to be more supportive on a daily basis, which is where it comes back to allyship as well.
It does, and that's what I really hope that people who are not a member of the LGBTQ plus community will take away from this conversation. That allyship is so important, and get involved in Pink Season no matter where you're from or what your gender or sexuality or race, religion is. It sounds like an incredible plethora of events there'll be something to suit everybody.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And we're having a lot of fun along the way as well. We've got a day which is going to be at Disneyland, which has got some incredible discounts.
Oh, cool. And is this one of your family days?
That's the main family day. So it's going to start off with a breakfast at the Disneyland Hotel where you're going to have the characters there like Mickey and Winnie the Pooh and all the rest of it. And then a full day at the park where we're going to have photography competition for people taking fun pictures in the different zones and things.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So that's going to be a nice fun day. For adults, we've got an open-air cinema screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Are we going to bring newspapers and rice and water guns?
Exactly.
Awesome.
So we're teaming up with Best of British Festival for that. We've got Out in the Open, which is the finale, which again is a family day, but with some, fingers crossed, some celebrities. I can't say any more than that at the moment.
Oh, great. Well, we love a little teaser. That's excellent.
And we've also got other things as well, which we haven't done. So we've got an event called Gay Gaming, where we're really looking at the computer gaming industry, community, I should say. So we're having a fun evening where we're going to be going around the different arcades in Mongkok as a group
that would be fun.
playing. And that's teaming up with a group called Game On Hong Kong, who have got massive support from the gaming community. So we're trying to get people from different communities involved in it as well.
Yeah, I can see that. It really is a massive community event, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about Pink Season, how can they do that?
There's the website, which is www.pinkseason.hk. You can find us on Facebook, again, the same name. We're on Twitter. We have got printed calendars, which we've put in various different bars and distributed around many different companies. Most of the events are free. The only ones which we've charged for is literally to cover costs, because we can't afford to run them.
Amazing.
But yes, everything which we've got is, as far as we can make it, will be free.
And so it's accessible to anyone?
Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant. Completely. Well, congratulations and thank you for all the work that you're doing in the community.
Absolute
it's so
pleasure.
Important.
Thank you.
And it's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you, and I'll see you at some of your events. I'm really looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.